Okay, let us begin the candidate forum. Welcome, everybody. I'm Shannon Silverman, a co-president of your local League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove area, which also includes Prospect Heights, Wheeling, and Elk Grove Village. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We hope that you find this next hour impactful and helpful to inform you as you make your plan, and please go vote. Local elections are important. They affect a lot of our lives, our everyday lives here at home. And in fact, your one vote has an even bigger impact in local elections because historically, local elections have a very low turnout rate. I think we can do better. And I think that we can get that score up for the suburbs of Cook County. So why does the League of Women Voters host candidate forums? The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We don't support or oppose any candidates or political parties. And we haven't for as long as we've been in existence. We've actually been supporting here in Arlington Heights. This is our 70th year as your local League of Women Voters. We've been here doing what we do for 70 years, and we're pretty proud of that fact. We do provide public forums so citizens like you can become better informed about the issues facing our community and become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. Before today, all three candidates on the ballot for Arlington Heights president and mayor received invitations by mail and email. To all candidates, I want to say how much we appreciate the often exhausting and demanding work of running for office and your willingness to volunteer to serve our community. By running, you give us choices, and by appearing here tonight, you give us informed choices. So thank you very much. There are a few preliminaries that I want to touch on before I turn it over to our moderator. There are always few rules, right? The forum is being recorded. A big thank you to Lorelle Communications, that is a local business here in our community, for donating their professional audiovisual services this evening for both forums. For public access, videos of tonight's forums will be posted to our League of Women Voters YouTube in 1 to 2 days following this forum. For your information, if you missed them, earlier this month, our league did hold candidate forums for Arlington Heights Memorial Library trustees, as well as the Wheeling Township trustee candidates. Those are already posted on our YouTube channel. Those who are present in the room, you will see these bright orange fluorescent postings at periodic spaces, along with a QR code. If you take your camera and catch that QR code, it will jump you immediately to the video section on our YouTube channel. Those videos are available 24/7 and will remain up permanently. So anyway, we have some additional things to touch on. All candidates signed the same ground rules to participate today and will be asked the same questions submitted by you, the audience. Please submit your written questions. Good, thoughtful questions make a good candidate forum, and we're here for you. We're here to make it easier for you to vote informed. We want you to vote for who you want to vote for with the information to make that decision. To submit a written question, you can raise your hand to request an index card from an usher. They'll bring it to you, can write your question on it, and simply hand it back to an usher. No questions will be asked from the floor. Written questions will be reviewed by league volunteers to check for redundancy, legibility, and clarity, and to make sure it's a question appropriate to be asked by all candidates for village president and mayor. No personal attack questions will be permitted. Now, sometimes there are multiple questions involving the same issue or idea. In that instance, our league volunteers will consolidate those questions into one question that best represents the intent behind the questions. This is not to screen out any questions, it's simply to use our time, our limited time here tonight, to allow other questions and ideas to be voiced and asked. Everyone has, let's face it, everyone has some views that are not the same as the next person. Mine is different than yours is different from mine, and the next person sitting next to you. Out of respect for the candidates and your fellow audience who also took time to be here, we do ask that you hold your applause until the very end of the forum. And don't interrupt or demonstrate support or opposition of a candidate. Let's keep it a comfortable, safe space for everybody, please. Now, let's take a moment and honor our nation by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Thank you. I'll now hand the forum over to our moderator. Let me introduce her, Dr. Sharon Cross. Dr. Cross is a trained moderator and member of the Schwingbeck Kaufman Estates alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and a past president of the organization. She spent 32 years as an educator, folks, 32 years as an educator and administrator in Township High School District 211, and was recognized by the Illinois State Board of Education, Those Who Excel, not once, but twice. Dr. Cross retired after serving 7 years as a principal at Schwingbeck High School. We are very grateful for her help tonight. Will you join me in welcoming Dr. Cross?
Thank you, Shannon. As Shannon said, I am the moderator and a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I do not live in Arlington Heights, so I'm not going to be voting for any of the candidates participating this evening. The format today is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. We do hope the candidates will speak to their goals and plans and refrain from speaking about another candidate or what another candidate has or has not done. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with 1.5-minute opening statements. They will then alternate in order in which they answer questions for 1.5 minutes. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will be given a 1-minute closing statement. Members of the league will be acting as timers. Should a candidate exceed a time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. To our audience, I would ask those here in attendance to please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you be respectful and refrain from applauding or in any other ways demonstrating support or opposition to a candidate. Finally, to the candidates, I would like to say on behalf of everyone here how appreciative we are that you are not only willing to serve in office, but who have agreed to be here tonight. So let's get started. Candidate Ridler, you have 1.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Dr. Cross. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to come out today. We hope that you'll be able to not only ask questions, but also hear the vision and the stance that we have on what's going on in Arlington Heights and the qualifications that we each bring forward. Again, my name is John Ridler, and I've served Arlington Heights for the last 20 years as the executive director of the Arlington Heights Chamber of Commerce. And the insight that that's given me and the business community, but also as a resident of Arlington Heights, has given that opportunity to understand the backbone of the revenue that we have coming into this community and the importance of not only retaining that, but recruiting more businesses here as well. I've served as a commissioner on the Economic Alliance for 8 years, 6 years with the Crime Stoppers Board, and then also now locally with the Lions Club as well too. So when I looked at the overall involvement that I've had in Arlington Heights too, is that it comes from all sides of the table. And I know that can be an asset to the village, and it can be an asset to the village government as well too, on being able to hear from other people in town and bringing other people together collaboratively, bringing more stakeholders to the table, and having those voices heard as well too. So thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you to the League of Women's Voters for putting this on. Dr. Cross, thank you. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for coming here tonight to hear us out. My name's Tom Schwingbeck. I grew up in Des Plaines and never could envision that I would be sitting here today. When I was a young boy, my family moved to India. We lived in Bhopal, India, went to school there, in an Indian school, and that really helped shape me. I had an opportunity to live in a very diverse, with religions and cultures. Growing up here in Arlington Heights, we moved in here 37 years ago when I was in my late 20s, got involved in a lot of kids' sports, Boy Scouts of America, which was a lot of service to not only the troop but the community. And then back in 2015, I got an opportunity to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then in 19, got voted by the residents here to be a trustee here in the village. So I'm in my second term right now. I'm really excited. My family, my two boys have lived here a long time, and I'm excited to be the mayor, and looking forward to the questions that you're going to have tonight so you can make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Tinaglia. Tinaglia.
Tinaglia.
Tinaglia.
It was close. It was good.
It was close.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. It's an honor to be speaking in front of you and answering questions that are all on your mind. I hope that it's an engaging evening. I grew up in this town. My family moved here when I was 9 years old. I was in the middle of fourth grade, and I remember joking with my friends in Berwyn, where I was born, that I'm moving to a place where the school has a grass playground. And back then, the playground was asphalt, and we all had skin knees. So living in Arlington Heights has been a blessing. Cindy and I were married in 1988. We've raised 4 children here. Both she and I went through District 25 and 214 schools. All 4 of our children did the same. They're all out of the house and contributing adults at this point. And so here we are. I've been very active all along the way, coaching soccer and working with Frontier Days and being a commissioner on the Design Commission. And then 12 years ago, being elected as a trustee. So I am wrapping up my 3rd term sitting up here on this dais. And I'm hoping that I can carry the baton as wonderfully as our previous 2 mayors did, Arlene Mulder and Tom Hayes. So I respectfully request your support on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. On to question number 1. Candidate Schwingbeck, what do you view is the most important duty of a village president or mayor?
Well, I think the most important thing is the face of the village. I think when you look at the responsibilities leading the board, it is to not only be the face of this village, but it starts here when you look at things like diversity, being involved in your community, making sure that the message on affordable housing is carried further, making this a welcoming community. It all starts at the top and then trickles down through the village board. I also think it's working very closely with our village staff and our residents. I think the mayor's got to be an extremely good listener, making sure that they're hearing what our residents are trying to tell us on the board, and then carrying that message from our residents and businesses back to making good decisions on their behalf.
Thank you. Candidate Tinaglia.
So I think, in my opinion, I'm going to repeat what my father always told me, and that is God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you speak. And that is, in my opinion, the most important job for all of us here on this board, and especially our village president, to be able to work together. There are 9 of us up here over the past 12 years that I've had the privilege to work with. And all 9 of us have an equal vote and an equal voice on everything. We're elected at large through the entire community. We're not done through precincts and things like that. You all know this. It's important that we work together. You do know that it's a $223 million budget that we're responsible for every year. And so Our job is to collaborate together, work together to make sure that your tax dollars are wisely spent on police and fire and training and equipment so that we can all enjoy a safe and healthy community. I firmly believe that if you have a safe and healthy community, you have something to start with. Without that, you have nothing. And Arlington Heights is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. We've been here all our lives, and I think we all probably feel blessed to be here. I'm thankful.
Candidate Ridler.
I think first and foremost, the mayor of Arlington Heights needs to be that voice for the residents and the business community. A lot of the business owners that I work with, they do not live here, but they provide one of the largest revenue streams to the village budget, and being able to listen and have those relationships built. The mayor needs to be within the community, not just actively participating with the village government. And I think that's the biggest part of having that opportunity where you're building those relationships, not just in Arlington Heights, but also with our surrounding communities as well when we're looking at some of the projects that are coming on board and coming in line for the village of Arlington Heights. The second thing is the title is village president, the president of the board. We need a village president that's going to be able to not only mentor and actually empower each and every trustee that is on this board to have your voice as well. Because one person cannot be listening, does not have the time to represent the entire community. And each trustee should be bringing that forward, but also that village president should champion their expertise in those areas that they would like to serve in, and making sure that they're bringing back that to the village board to have a concise and unified board that's serving you and doing the best that we can for Arlington Heights.
Thank you. Next question. How will you prioritize safe neighborhoods and community feel with business growth and commercial real estate development? Candidate Tinaglia.
Could you repeat that, please?
How will you prioritize safe neighborhoods and community feel with business growth and commercial real estate development?
Very good. Well, as I just said a moment ago, if you don't have safety and security in your community, you're really on the bottom end of things. And I know Arlington Heights is wonderfully safe and very well financed in that department. Our board, Tom and I up here, and all the other board members, and Tom Hayes as well, have been extremely cognizant of the fact that our police department is second to none, and our fire department is second to none. I'm borrowing Tom Hayes' phrase there, by the way. Second to none in Arlington Heights is a very popular way to look at things. We make sure that we're safe. And the thing that's important to know is the way that that's financed and funded is through really a couple different ways: property tax and sales tax. So our business community and development has to be strong, because we don't want to put that on the backs of the residents alone. The business community pays 2.5 times what the residential community has to pay in real estate taxes. So it's really important that if you leave here with nothing today, leave here with my request that you always, always, always shop local. Spend your dollars here in Arlington Heights, whether it's gasoline or groceries or restaurants. That's the engine that makes Arlington Heights better than the left side of Arlington Heights or the right side of Arlington Heights. That is what kicks our engine into gear. So please, shop local.
Candidate Ridler.
A couple of points of that question. I think the safety and the public safety, I know, is always a discussion that we have to have. And like we've been talking about too, we have a great police department that provides that safety here too. But as the mayor and the village board continues to see those costs rising and resources that need to be out there, we also have to be forward thinking when it comes to where's that revenue coming from. So when we talk about small businesses, we talk about development, it has to be balanced with the need of public safety and the continued need that is going to continue to cost in those rise. But also when we're looking at our neighborhoods, when it comes to those big developments that necessarily don't fit into our area, we have to have more conversations with the stakeholders in those areas. We have to make sure that we're bringing people to the table before it gets to this room because then it really becomes divisive. And I think that can be done with better communication and actually more relationships that are built in the community itself. So working with the business owners and working with the development and making sure that there's a balance when it comes to that is very, very important. And we're going to need to do that even more and focus on that moving forward as we see some of this development coming to Arlington Heights. And when we kind of come together as with this too, we need to expand that opportunity for you as stakeholders to have a voice where it's coming on the front end of this, where we can learn from that and avoid mistakes and avoid that division that comes when we don't listen well.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Yeah, so your property tax bill, we get about 11% of that, and that only makes up about 30% of the budget that we need. So we really need our businesses to make up for the remaining portion of our budget. Police, fire, public works, the services, those are extremely important to us. So with our police and our fire department, we're giving them the personnel they need, the training that they need, and the equipment to make this community extremely safe. And as those costs continue to go up, this is also a growth question. So all the development, the community development that this question was talking about, we develop some of this land that we have around here that's right now sitting empty. That increases our tax base. We bring in sales tax dollars, and that goes to keep everyone's property taxes low. Because most of the budget that we have, about 80% of it, goes to paying salaries and benefits and keeping this village safe. So, thank you.
Next question. There is discussion in the community about the development of Arlington Park and a shared acknowledged need to not duplicate and pull from the downtown and other business hubs. If the Bears don't come, as we sit here today, what is your top ideal on what should be done with the Arlington Park site? Candidate Ridler.
In a minute and a half, we have to explain this one. Like, the reality is that that is a great piece of property, and it's a once in a generation, as we've heard as well too. It needs to have a lot of different elements to that. We talk about an entertainment district. We talk about sports complexes. This is one of those big ones where we have a lot of young families in town that travel with their kids, and they travel 3, 4, 5 hours away and spend thousands of dollars on the weekends because we don't have the fields, we don't have facilities for that type of thing. That certainly could be a great spot for that field as well too, and that open land. When we talk about the downtown business community and we talk about what might come out to that area too, I've spoken with business owners in the downtown that would love the opportunity to have a second location out there. So we want to make sure that we don't just limit it to large corporate businesses if we're looking out there. It needs to have independent small businesses as well too, like our restaurants and our retail, but it can be in balance of that. And it can be a great opportunity where people are in the downtown here, they can get on the train and go to that facility as well, and really opportunities where we're growing that tax base, but also we're growing, having people come in from out of town. When the chamber does events in the downtown, whether it's our Twilight Shop or other things, we are bringing 68% of the people that come in are from outside of our zip code. That is the key. We have to make sure that we're not only shopping in locally our businesses here, but we're bringing people in regionally to that area. That 326 acres has that great ability to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. Well, this discussion actually started years before the Bears actually bought the property. We created an overlay zoning district. We had a vision of things that we didn't want on that property. But if the Bears don't come, I certainly would like also to make this a large entertainment district, hotels, restaurants. It's going to be a long, long process, and as we've all said, we're only going to get one opportunity to develop that land, so we really have to make it right. But I could, again, hotels, restaurants, right now, when the Bears bought the property, they said no horse racing, no casino. I could even see a casino out there. Things can happen, things can change, but that would be a great use of the property. I don't want it to compete with the downtown. I'd like it to be compatible, not only with the downtown, but other parts of Arlington Heights as well. So I would like people to be able to come in, use this property, just like we did with Arlington Park when it was going full speed, spend money, and then at the end of the day, leave. And the other thing, the other thing I don't want it to do is have a development out there that's going to put a big burden on our school districts. So, thank you.
Candidate Tinaglia.
Well, this was a question that was asked to myself and 4 other candidates 4 years ago, exactly right now, and the property was not for sale yet, but the Daily Herald asked the question to us, what would you guys like to see there? And I'll repeat what I said then. I'd love to see an NFL stadium so that it's busy, generating taxes all winter and fall, and I'd love to see a Major League Baseball stadium on the other end of the place. I'd love to see a large building for when I lost the word here. A convention center, a way to be able to generate taxes all year round. And so the thinking here is we're on a world stage right now. If the Bears don't come, I firmly believe somebody will. Now, if I spent your $100 betting on it, I would bet the Bears are coming. I'm not a gambler, so I'm betting your $100. But I think they're coming. And what I really want to get across is that there are 4 issues that need to be handled. The first thing we have to handle is safety. It has to be done safely. Second, it has to be economically wise, so it's not on the backs of our residents and our businesses. Third, traffic has to be controlled. And 4, infrastructure has to be properly done. If those are all handled right, it will be wonderful.
Thank you. Next question. Are there initiatives you would introduce or support to make sure a cross-section of the community is represented in conversations for the village strategic planning? For example, millennials or unmarried single-income residents. Candidate Schwingbeck.
Well, I think this gets back to having not only the mayor but the board do a lot of listening and try to understand what's important to not only residents that have been here a long time, but we're constantly changing. New people are moving into town, new ideas, new needs. So I think we've got to be extremely good listeners. I think one thing that we are constantly taking a look at with people that are moving into our town, they're moving here for one very important reason, and that's for our school districts. And a lot of them are coming here and need the aid of maybe some affordable housing. They're really finding it difficult to move in. Arlington Heights is a fairly affluent suburb, but we can certainly keep a sharp eye and focus on affordable housing so that people can move in here and enjoy our great schools and park district and library.
Candidate Tinaglia.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat it one more time for me, please?
Are there initiatives you would introduce to support to make sure a cross-section of the community is represented in conversations for the village strategic planning? For example, millennials or unmarried single-income residents.
Sure. I think what's wonderful about Arlington Heights, which is very different than when I grew up here, but certainly now, this is a melting pot. We have such a diverse population, and it's in our schools, it's in our homes, it's in our businesses. It is a wonderful place to be, no matter who you are, what color you are, or what religion you are. It is a wonderful place. And I think everyone on our board that I've been working with for the last 12 years understands how important that is and how wonderful it is. Can we be better? Absolutely. We certainly can, and we will. We always will. I think that's the nature of being a true American, is to be welcoming, and I think that's who we want to be here in Arlington Heights. Be welcoming, be supportive. And so, as I said before, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. My plan is to be a really good listener, try to find common ground, try to find ways to work collaboratively with the different. We have a number of commissions. We have Senior Citizens Commission, we have Youth Commission, we have Bicycle Commission, we have every commission you can imagine. And it's important to listen to what the commissions have to say. It's important to be good with taxes. It's important to be smart with education, but it's also important to be a good listener.
Candidate Ridler.
With this topic, I think when we look at the diversity in Arlington Heights as well, too, it's not just about listening to, but it's being proactive and actually coming out and being out into the community. When you talk with millennials, their time is so tied up to what they want to do. For them to come to a meeting isn't on their agenda. They want the information coming to them. And I think we need to continue to do that and look at ways that we need to communicate more effectively. But the examples of that I've been doing through the chamber is there is a lot of different cultures in our business community. The Bulgarian Chamber of Commerce was started with my help to do one thing, is to give them an opportunity to have a chamber of commerce where they feel comfortable with each other, but they also need to network with the local chamber of commerce here because they just didn't have that opportunity. They didn't see that as an open door. So now we're opening that door because they have their own organization. They can come in, but now we're able to communicate more effectively and then network together. We talk about commissions in town as well, too. Businesses get together and do business expos to have people understand who they are and what's going on. I think we need to really expand the exposure, the importance, the job duties, and the requirements of each of these commissions that we have for the Village of Arlington Heights, and have people come in so that they can find out how to get connected, to be a voice or be a partner, or actually even just be volunteering. Today when we're at the moorings, a lot of the people out there were just talking about that they want to be volunteering and coming and being a part of the community. That's where we need to focus.
Thank you. Next question. What do you think are the most pressing issues facing the village? Candidate Tinaglia.
Thank you. Well, as I walk around and talk to neighbors and business owners, no doubt the biggest question always is control my taxes. Make sure that we are being fiscally careful, conservative with the dollars that we spend. And of course, as I said earlier, my focus will always be on public safety, number one. And then that right behind that is public service from our public works department for all our snow plowing and the machinery and equipment that it takes to get that done properly. If we feel safe and we feel taken care of, that's step number one. Beyond that, there's a number of things that we need to be working on here. We need to be working on staying ahead of the neighboring towns. If we sit idle with just how wonderful we are right now, and let me promise you, when I grew up, this town was not wonderful. It was not like it is right now. And other towns look at us as a role model, that we are the benchmark. And if we just sit idle and say, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay, they will pass us up. So we have to always be thinking ahead about future growth and future development and doing it carefully, very carefully, so that we don't have any missteps, and there's none bigger than the one out to the west.
Candidate Ridler.
Again, as we were talking to, the top issue that we all face is that we do really enjoy all of the services that Arlington has. We enjoy the safety that Arlington provides. We enjoy the restaurants and the entertainment area that Arlington has, but we also know where that's coming from. That is coming from revenue. And when we look at the pressing issues that we have in our village, it's creating new revenue that is not raising the property taxes for our residents and our seniors so that they can stay in their homes and they can stay in Arlington Heights. That comes back to what I've been doing for 20 years and working with the small business community and looking to not only expand, but giving businesses when they come to town an easier road to get to open. And there's a lot of different things parting with that we need to look at some code-ready opportunities with commercial spaces that we're saying, yes, we want these type of businesses coming in. Instead of just saying what we don't want, we need to do a better job of attracting the businesses that we want to come in, more actively doing that, because that's going to increase the sales tax, the food and beverage tax, and even the property taxes for the commercial side to be able to keep that sustainable for our residents here as well too. But that also opens up the door for more services for our residents, more places to eat, to shop, and then that's that balance that we need to come in with. Whatever happens on that 326 acres is not in the short term, it's at the long term. The short-term need right now is looking at that culture of being inviting and open to businesses that come in, and these are those small businesses that we all enjoy.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Yeah, so I think our biggest issue, when you look at our $232 million budget with costs constantly going up, is how do we provide the services that our residents have come to expect and keep your taxes at a very manageable level? We're spending $8-9 million a year on roads. We're spending about $4 million a year on the lead service line replacements. We have a very aging water system. So those are big concerns of ours. So how do we keep managing that budget with all of our costs going up? Healthcare, as I said earlier, 80% of our budget is for our people. So the answer is growth. We have got to look at this empty property, empty storefronts, and continue to bring businesses into this town so that not only can we increase our sales revenue, but on the empty property, we can get that tax base up. So doing that is going to help with the budget and being able to keep the property taxes in check for you folks and balancing the budget. Thank you.
Next question. How will you work for transparency in village board decision-making and accountability to the community? Candidate Ridler.
Thank you for that question. I think this is really, really important with not only those who are here tonight too, but even the people that I've talked to during the campaign. People want to get involved, they want to know what's happening too, but it's very difficult sometimes to get all the information. One of the things that I would say as mayor is that we need to take a look at the process when we open up the information that's going to be voted on at the village board meetings on a Friday. It's open to the public. You can see all of the documentation that the mayor and the trustees get, and then they vote on it on Monday. It's a weekend. You've got Friday and Monday. We need to take a look at that and expand that. We need more time during that week so that not only people that are interested in what's happening in their neighborhood, but also they need to have opportunity to read through the documents and find out where this is either positive or negative and have that input so that you can actively participate with the village manager, with the mayor, and with the board of trustees as well. And we look at this, and I've talked about this for a long time, and they haven't changed it over the years. We've been talking about this for a long time. And if the village staff isn't able to get those documents earlier, then we need to push the meetings back. It's pretty simple. In my world, when there's an issue, you discuss it, you talk about it, you find a solution concept, and then you move forward. And I think that's a big part of that transparency that we need so that everybody feels like they have the information in front of them, they know what's going on, but they have time to respond to it and find the information so that they know what's happening.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. Well, with respect to our meetings, most of the meetings, I think we have plenty of time to review the documents. Very rarely do we have more than one or two residents attend our meetings. So I do think, for the most part, we're given enough time. On larger projects, those seem to go along week after week. So our residents are getting an opportunity to study up on things and come prepared. We have talked about getting us the agenda items a little sooner, so I would agree with that. I think transparency really starts with the leader. You know, as a leader, I'm very open-minded. I share things with residents. Unless it's confidential, I don't mind having very candid conversations with our residents and businesses. So when I look at transparency, I really look at it from the standpoint of not only our mayor, but through the entire village board and staff. When somebody has a question, you really try and answer that question and share with them what's on your mind.
Candidate Tinaglia.
Thank you. Well, I would say that we are very transparent already. I think we have meetings here in this room 3 to 4 times a month. We have committee of the whole, which is our group here, but we don't vote on things. There's a website that maybe could be a little bit better, but all of the documents are on there all the time, all the time, all the time. Probably the biggest project that we have to deal with every year is our budget. And as we said, it's a big budget. And we spend half of the year preparing for that. We have no less than a half a dozen meetings throughout the course of the year on budget preparation and budget figuring. And then when it's all said and done and completed, it gets reviewed again by actuaries that come in after the fact, just to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. And it's all available for anyone to review and make sure that we are doing all that we need to do to be completely transparent and completely clear. So I would say that this board represents our residents and our businesses very, very well, especially in an honorable way about transparency and so on. So I don't know that there's anything there that I would want to change too dramatically or too differently.
Next question. What additional public transportation would you support bringing across Arlington Heights? Candidate Schwingbeck.
That's a good question, because I think right now it's extremely difficult for residents to move around town. We don't live in a community other than our train station that goes right through our downtown, and Pace buses. It's very difficult to get around. I know especially our older residents that don't drive anymore find that extremely difficult. I've directed people to the phone numbers to get a hold of Pace Bus before, and that certainly helped. But beyond that, we live in a community that this just doesn't have a lot of transportation. So I'd certainly be open to some discussions on that.
Candidate Tinaglia.
This is a great question, and I've talked about this a time or two ago running for trustee. And what you probably all know is that Arlington Heights is 8 miles long, and it's 2 miles wide. And we have 3 epicenters of business. One is on the north, one is on the south, and the heart is in the middle. And sometimes these communities feel a little bit disconnected. And the residents who live up there sometimes feel like they live in Long Grove, or sometimes they feel like they live in Elk Grove Village and not really part of Arlington Heights. And I remember Cindy and I took a vacation down in Florida not too long ago, and there was, where we stayed was one area, but then the little downtown area was over there, and for $1, you could get on a trolley, and it was going around all night, almost like a college campus. So I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some way on Arlington Heights Road to have some sort of a service that would take you from the hotels on the south end to the heart of our community in the central business district. And then again on the north end, where there'll be other businesses that are developing up there, some pretty exciting things happening. And have this thing just be rotating back and forth all day, all evening at least, let's say, so that people can get around easier and not have to get involved with car traffic. Thanks.
Candidate Ridler.
This really comes back to also, we're talking about taxes. So any public transportation is an increase on our taxes. Somebody has to pay for that as well, too. When we looked at this as with not only the property out at Arlington Park, the Chamber of Commerce, I actually worked and recruited Stephen Andrews, who's an Arlington Heights resident. He's the community manager for Pace Bus. Their headquarters are in town. We've learned a lot from Stephen and kind of talking about the public transportation that's available in Arlington Heights. The reality is that if I got a bus right now, I wouldn't know how or where to go. Wouldn't know how to use that. We know where to drive our cars and things too. I think when we're looking at education on our public transportation that we currently have, I think that's the start of that as well too, because I think we're talking about residents that might not have the means to have their own vehicle. They might not have their means to get around, and whether it's Uber or something else, that becomes very expensive. So I think an education process, and I've talked with Stephen about this, of having something in the community where we actually learn how to use the available the Pace buses here, understanding the routes and understanding how that moves forward. Another part of this was I was very surprised to find out that with the developments that we've been doing in Arlington Heights, Pace Bus and that public transportation is not mandated to be part of the developer, making sure that there's a place for that public transportation to be part of that development. They're brought into the discussion, but it's not mandatory. And I think that's something that we should look at as a village and as a village board.
How, if, how, if at all, might artificial intelligence, AI, be used to improve village services? Candidate Tinaglia.
That's a scary thought, isn't it? Holy cow. AI is here, isn't it? You know, it's interesting. We up here have been hit with just countless questions from the Daily Herald and you name it, the Patch, so on. And there's always a temptation to hand that off to AI and ask what to do. I promise you I did not. It will be part of our daily life here at Village Hall. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that somewhere along the line, whether it has to do with police servicing or fire servicing or public works servicing, there's ways that AI will be helpful for our community here. So while it might be fearful in the beginning here, it might be something that we wonder about, I think there's some good uses for it. I know there is. I know there are. And so my hope is to embrace it. As much as it scares me a little bit, we embrace it and be really careful with it and make sure they're putting it into good use, good ways, and take advantage of all that it does have to offer. But nothing a computer can do. There used to be an old phrase when I was a kid, garbage in, garbage out. Some of you probably used that phrase a long time ago. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So it's all about how it's handled by the people, just like you here tonight, the moderator. It has to be handled properly, and I think it would be safe.
Candidate Ridler.
The biggest use for AI right now, too, and we're using it not only at the chamber, but with our businesses too, is communication, customer service. So when you're talking about services, AI is not going to be that police force and keeping you safe. It's not going to be the engineering drawings and everything else too. Customer service and communication. We've had questions on how do we communicate more effectively? How do we get more people in our community involved so that they feel they're part of this instead of an us and them type of mentality? Artificial intelligence just gives us those tools. It's another business tool that we have. And when you put that in place, it actually helps you communicate more effectively, but also communicates in a way that can be out into the public and out into the residents that's meeting them where they're at. And it could be meeting them in the language that they understand. And it could be meeting them in the tone that they understand, or even bringing them to the website and helping them maneuver this website that I've tried to maneuver for years, and it is not easy. That's where artificial intelligence comes in. It doesn't take the place of public safety and those important areas too. It enhances what we have right now. And we've developed that with the chamber, working with our businesses to find out how they need to get more connected or what their marketing opportunities are. But I think when we're looking at artificial intelligence, it's something to bring the experts to the table, which we've done with the engineers, but we know what are the questions, what are the issues we want it to solve, and then we work with it, but it's not just turned over.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. We actually are using AI technology today in our Public Works Department. We're working with an outside agency. It's not costing us anything. It's a trial. They're using, as I mentioned a little earlier, we've had about 280 water main breaks in town last year. And so they are using satellite imaging and AI technology to go back and take a look at data from 2022 and 2023 to see if they can predict where the water mains might break, where the hot spots are, so that we don't have to wait until they do break and then have our Public Works Department out there, not only in the dead of summer, but the cold of winter as well, trying to fix these things in freezing temperatures. So we are already, as a village, using this technology.
What are your feelings towards affordable housing? Candidate Ridler.
So I've learned we turn that word around. It's housing affordability, because I think the other part of that brings people's thoughts to housing that they don't want in town. not in my backyard type of thing. This is not Section 8. This is not some of those things that you really have a hard time on when we actually do need some of those to find the right place for it. But housing affordability is something that we need to take a look at and try to figure out where we're going to be expanding upon that. And there are ways to do that. In the last one of the forums too, I challenged the residents to say, you know what, if you want to have some affordable housing or housing affordability units in your neighborhood, then step up and tell the village that. Because when a developer comes in and identifies an area that they want to bring it in, then the residents are told, and then it becomes this type of a battle of who wants it and who doesn't want it. So I would say there's homes in town that have adults with disabilities in, Clearbrook homes and things. That's housing affordability that we're talking about as well. If you want that in your neighborhood, bring that forward and see if you can partner with that. We call them P3s, public-private partnerships. That's a great way to address this as well. But when it comes to the big developers and the rental units that we have here, there's already their housing commission has that code in place. But we need to take a look at how do we really work with not that, but also the seniors that are in town that can't afford to move out of their single-family homes that they've lived in, they paid off because the rental units are so high. I think by doing that, we need to be more proactive, but we also have to have residents that come up and say, I want this in my backyard.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. When I first came on the board in 2019, we had an affordable housing guideline. And what the board did was we created an inclusionary housing ordinance. It really got us away from talking to developers back and forth and negotiating. We told them exactly what we wanted. The 7.5% of multi-units had to be affordable. I'm a big proponent of that. When I look at affordable housing, I really look at it threefold. I look at it the affordable units that we've been approving in town. I look at, while I knock on doors and talk to residents throughout the year, they're talking about their taxes going up and not being able to afford to live in the home that they currently live in. So one thing we can do is with tear downs. We're seeing a lot of small single-family homes being either torn completely down for larger homes or putting on a second story, and all that's doing is taking away those small, affordable homes, especially with our aging community. So I really look at those three things, and also we're taking money in lieu of, we're taking tear down tax, and we're putting it into an inclusionary housing trust fund so that at some point in time we can use that money to do something really good along the affordable housing.
Candidate Tinaglia.
Well, this is a wonderful program that we have. I'm proud to say that we are one of the few communities around here that actually have this type of a program, so that when a developer does come in and wants to build 100 units of apartments, there's a number of those units that have to stay affordable. And what that means is it's a slightly lowered rent rate based on the mean average income of the community. So if something is costing $2,500 a month, this affordable unit might be $1,800 a month. It's something like that. It's not Section 8. It is nothing like that. So what happens? How does that really work? Who pays the difference? Well, it's certainly not the developer. The developer is going to pass that cost that he is going to take a hit on onto the other units. So the other 90 units in that building are going to have a little increase in all of theirs. Now, you can argue whether that's fair or whether that's not fair, but the point of the matter is we're trying very, very hard to make something happen, something good happen for folks who are not able to live in the most expensive homes in our town. And the same thing happens for tear downs. When these are torn down, money is put in that coffer. My hope is we can use it for seniors. We have to find a way to keep our seniors here in town.
Final question. When something comes up that you don't have expertise or knowledge in, how do you research or prepare? Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'll give you an example of something that did come up while I was on the board, and I think I do this with every project. Years ago, we were discussing the the possibility of putting in our very first marijuana dispensary. We had a dispensary for medical marijuana, but not recreational marijuana. The board had to make a very quick decision, and we elected at that time to not allow it. We had to make that decision by the end of the year. So what I did, not knowing much about it, you go out and you talk to people. I had a meeting with the chief medical officer at Northwest Community Hospital. I sat down with our police chief and our fire chief, and I really tried to understand the ramifications if we did this, as well as going and visiting and touring Verilife over on Gulf Road. So you ask questions, you find experts that have the answers so that you can come back to the village board and make a very well-educated decision. And that's what I do with every single project, whether it's talking to developers or neighbors or our staff. You have to ask questions that you don't have the answers for so that you can make an educated decision.
Candidate Tinaglia.
Well, this is my world. I'm an architect, and I know people think I know everything because I'm an architect, but it's not true. We have to know how to find solutions. Every day of my life, that's what I do for people like everyone in this room, whether you're doing something residentially for your own home or something very large for a 10-story building. We are the glue as architects to search out, find solutions, put it all together, put it on paper so that someone can read it correctly and build from it. Blank piece of paper gets put all of this information so that somebody can actually get a permit and build it. And it's a collaboration of finding out from the structural engineers, electrical engineers, the civil engineers, of which none of your architects really know all of those things. So that's what I do every day. It's about reaching out and connecting and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making sure everything is safe and efficient and economical so that it can be a wonderful project when it's done. I apply those same principles to everything I do on this board for the last 12 years. If it's something I don't know, we find out where to find out. Number one, where do you get the information? And then how do you process it and turn it into something wonderful? That's a tool in my tool belt that I'm pretty good at.
Candidate Ridler.
Through collaboration. This has been my 20-year plus career working in Arlington Heights. It's through collaboration, and over that time, I'm a connector. We have issues that come up. We discuss those. We find solution concepts. We bring the people to the table that can have a voice to be able to move that forward, solve it, or actually bring something else to the table as well, too. We have a plethora of experts, not only in the business community, but the residents here in Arlington Heights. And I think that's the main point. That's the reason why I'm running for mayor, is to have your voice where you feel your voice hasn't been heard. And I've been in those situations on the side with businesses. I've been in those situations as a resident. But I think we need to do that better job of having someone that's leading this board to challenge that of saying we need to hear from people. We need to have a different voice coming in here so that we learn differently. We see different things. We understand it differently. And then you can find a solution concept that hopefully will benefit the majority of the community. You're never going to be able to please everyone every time, and that's just called leadership. But being open to knowing what you don't know and being able to bring people to the table to help in that conversation, that's true leadership, and that's what I've enjoyed for the last 20 years in this community and look forward to continuing to do that as a chamber director, as your mayor, or even as just a resident in Arlington Heights.
Thank you. It's now time for closing statements. Candidates, you have 1 minute for your closing statement. Candidate Tinaglia.
Thank you. Well, if you want a mayor who has been here his entire life, and it has been a long time, 52 years since I moved here, someone who's dug in, someone who understands the past of where we've been, understands the present of how things work right now, and has a clear vision of how things can be, because that's what I do every day. Try to use my left side of my brain with my right side of my brain and try to imagine where we could go, whether it's something small or something very, very large and very, very critical. That's where I come from. I'm the kid who grew up at the corner of Walnut and Olive, went to all the District 25 schools and District 214 schools. I am Arlington Heights, and I say that humbly because I love this place. I feel so dug in, and it has been a dream of mine to be able to be here one day, and I hope that I can impress upon all of you that I will not let you down, and I will carry the ball well.
Candidate Schwingbeck.
Thank you. Well, as a trustee and hopefully as your next mayor, I will commit to working extremely hard for our residents and our businesses. As I said before, I've retired to do this. I've got the time, the energy, and the passion to do this job. And I think it's, with everything going on here in town, it's going to require a lot of time. If you're looking for somebody that's open-minded and collaborative, not only with our board, our staff, our residents, and our businesses, forward-thinking, I'm going to be very available to our residents and business and extremely accessible. And if you're looking for your next mayor to have those qualities, I would certainly hope that you could cast your ballot on April 1st for myself. I've got literature out in the hallway as well as some walking sheets. You can have access to my email and my website, but certainly would love your support. Thank you for coming tonight.
Candidate Ridler.
When I say that I serve as the executive director of the Arlington Heights Chamber for 20 years, that's that servant leadership that I've been bringing to the table 5 days a week, a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends in Arlington Heights. And it's really that servant leadership that I think we move forward with, and I'm looking forward to expanding as your next mayor in Arlington Heights. It's on the, boots on the ground, on the job training for 20 years, because a lot of what I have been doing and am doing and the organizations I've been a part of, I bring that perspective from all sides of the table. I read the packets before on Friday, before the meetings on Monday. I've been doing that since I've been here at the chamber and in the community. But even more so as far as being committed to Arlington Heights, my wife and I moved here in 2013 and started over on a 30-year mortgage because we invested in Arlington Heights and our kids to be in the school district here as well. So having an outside perspective and coming at it with the internal perspective of the organizations I've been at actually gives me an opportunity to serve you in a way that's great. Thank you.
Audience, please join me in thanking the candidates for being here and sharing their ideals and goals.
Couple last remarks. Thank you for being here. Also, if you need to re-register for a change of address or change of name or register your 18-year-old to vote, help him register or her register to vote. The last day for online voter registration through the county clerk is this Sunday, and early voting begins on Monday, March 17th. Make a plan and go vote.